My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
All right, guys, welcome to Property Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Kaminsky, filling in for Dave DeBow. And if you've ever wondered how to raise capital and build a thriving real estate portfolio, well, my guest today, Ian Webb, has not only cracked the code, but has an impressive 11 doors under his belt. Join me today as we explore his journey from out-of-province investments and strategies that propelled him forward. Ian, welcome to the show.
Hi, Bryce. Nice to meet you. It's great to be here.
Well, tell everyone, before the show, you let me know you're zooming in from Nunavut today, correct?
Northern Nunavut, you got it. Yeah, I'm up here at work. I do shift work up here, Bryce. As you know, the down payments are hard to come by these days. So you got to do what you need to do to get those in the bank. And working in Nunavut is primarily what's done it for me.
Yeah. Well, they're paying you the northern working allowances and stuff like that, right? So you're getting the
you betcha. Yeah.
There's two ways to make money: doing things that people don't know how to do and people don't want to do. And if it sounds like you're doing both, so good for you, man. I love the hardworking guy. So speaking of the down payments, you got 11 doors. What was your first step into real estate? Tell us about how you got started.
Yeah, actually, it's a bit of an accident, really, how I got started in real estate. After much coaxing from my parents, I bought my first principal residence about 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And this was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo in Kelowna, BC. I paid 13 years ago, it was $174 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I think it's worth $439 now. So great place to park that money. But yeah, I couldn't really afford the mortgage back then, even though it was minimal. So I decided to rent out one of the rooms to try to help out with the payment. And little did I know or expect, that money ended up covering 3/4 of the rent and the bills, which I thought was pretty awesome. This almost seemed like too good to be true, man. I remember thinking, yeah, I got to live with somebody, but yeah, I got a lot more money to play with and have fun with. So I was actually so intrigued that I ended up spending tons of money, like tens of thousands, on good and bad real estate investment groups and courses, and a couple coaches at that time. Some helped. Later, I learned some definitely did not help. There's good and bad coaches, just like in everything. Yeah. But it actually only took about a year of learning and listening to people and doing these groups and listening to these coaches and whatnot before I started to feel like, hey, I think I might be able to buy my first property and go from there. The only issue at that point then was the down payment. I didn't have the $40K in the bank to buy something. So that's when I decided to quit my government job at Interior Health as a counselor downtown Kelowna, and head up to Nunavut where the big bucks are. I worked about 6 months straight up there, and after 6 months I had the $40K in my bank account, and I picked up a little condo in downtown Abbotsford, which ended up doing really well. Back then I paid $156 for it, I think, and I ended up selling it 5 years later for $279.
Yeah.
And then it was
Abbotsford
after that
did really well too. Like that whole area just skyrocketed in pricing,
Yeah, and I was fortunate enough to be part of that. And then like I said, over the past 13 years, I've grown my real estate business into a 7-figure portfolio.
So at this point now, what are you primarily focused on as far as growing your portfolio from here on out?
Well, I managed to hook up with an absolutely killer coach about 3 years ago in Edmonton.
Mm-hmm.
He's been investing there for 30 years. And that's where I've been spending all my money, Bryce. Residential houses and townhouses. I'm currently in the I'm currently in the process of finalizing my fourth purchase this year, actually. And expected close is January 12th. So for the past while now, I've actually started to run out of qualifying room with the banks. As you know, they're capped unless you start looking at A and even C lenders. And on top of that, you know, down payment money doesn't, you run out of down payment money as well, you know, as time
Yeah.
goes on. So
Well, and
I'm
then you
actually
used to be
focusing.
able to burr out a little bit more, right? And it was that you
Yep.
could get a lot of your down payments back, but with the rising prices of the acquisitions and the kind of, I wouldn't say falling, but relatively, let's call them stable refi prices. We're not seeing that like, we're not seeing the, I wouldn't call it an overvaluation, but we're not seeing like the bank going, yeah, things are going up and giving you a few 20 or $30,000, you know, where they'd refi it for say 450. A year ago or two, they might give you like a 520 refi because they thought they
Yep.
saw the market going in a direction, and now they're like, okay, it's stabilized. We don't see it going anywhere other than where it is, so we're going to give you like a 475 appraisal, and then your money is not all stuck, but some of your down payment gets stuck, and so you have to top it up again and top it up, so you're leaving 20 or $30,000 behind in the property, which is a great ROI. If all you have is 30,000 in a property that's cash flowing or generating you, you know, wealth, then that's still a great ROI on $30,000. But you used to be able to run your down payment over and over and over again.
Yeah, not the case anymore. The banks are really tightening up. It's like, geez, to get a mortgage these days. I actually just did a post on Facebook, 7 tips to getting a mortgage approved. I put that out yesterday, but I'm going through one right now, and it just seems to be getting harder and harder and more hoops to jump through with less advantages. Like some of the terms I wanted on this last one was 30-year AM. I could only get a 25. I wanted 20% down. I could only get 25% down. I wanted a 6-month fixed term. I could only get a 1-year fixed term at 7.79. I was hoping for a little bit lower than that, maybe around 7, but it just seems to be getting more and more difficult. And given the amount of properties that I do own, makes it harder because there's more risk for the bank, the more properties a guy owns. Yeah, just in my experience, geez, it's like you got to sign over your firstborn nowadays or give a DNA sample to get an approval.
Yeah. Well, you know, one thing that seems to be emerging is that people are realizing that it's almost easier to do creative financing with the sellers than it is to get a mortgage. You know, you go in and negotiate with them and get a vendor take back mortgage with their old interest rate for a couple of years instead of having to take the property to the bank and deal with the bank, and they want your firstborn, like you're saying. So what's one tip that you would that you can give us from your video that could help the people at home who are looking to enter the mortgage game?
Oh, geez. There's
Just
so many things that are important. Um,
just the
geez,
main,
probably
just
one of
like a
the,
main one. Yeah.
it's helped me the most was, you know, keeping your mortgage broker and your accountant in contact with one another
Oh, that's a
has
good tip.
really been advantageous for me,
Mm-hmm.
to make sure both of those two people are on the same page and working together to help you reach your specific real estate investment goals. Like if
Mm-hmm.
it would, you know, the accounting and the mortgages are going to be different for somebody who's just looking at getting 1 or 2 properties or somebody who's looking at getting 10 plus properties. You want to start off on your first property with the right banks in order to maximize out your qualifying ability.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. So
Because
when
you want
you're,
to save, specifically, you want to save some banks who are a lot more lenient, who will let you get more properties. You want to save those banks to the end and not burn them
yeah,
out first.
yeah, like credit unions, places like that are a little bit more lenient.
Got it.
But
Yeah.
start with, you're saying start with the big five and work your way
The big
down the
five.
list. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with
You
all
got
you've accomplished in real estate so far, what would you say your biggest obstacle is now, aside from the mortgage thing, which is kind of everyone's obstacle these days?
Well, I'd say that the other obstacle is, is raising capital.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm focused in on now, learning sales, persuasion, influence, and
Mm-hmm.
raising OPM to continue doing what I love because I can't get any more mortgages on my own. So
Yeah.
in order to continue in my portfolio and doing what I love, which is investing in real estate, I can now, I'm going to help other people. I have a few JVs now
Mm-hmm.
that it's worked out really great so far. And it's a really great way for people who, don't necessarily know what to buy, how to buy, and when to buy,
Mm-hmm.
but they understand, how advantageous getting into real estate is. They can partner with someone like me to help them to get in and do that. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically like a hands-free investment opportunity for people.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
with real estate goes up and down, and sometimes it can be challenging, but what would you say, Robert Kiyosaki calls this the unfair advantage. What comes easy to you that other people might find difficult to do?
Well, given my job as a counselor, I've been training to build and strengthen relationships.
Mm,
And as you're well aware, I'm sure that would be the number one skill in sales, persuasion, and influence.
mm-hmm.
So building relationships, strengthening relationships, making people feel important and comfortable and valued. I'd say that is probably a strength of mine that many other people I've met seem to have to learn those skills. Those have always come quite naturally for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the human
Yeah,
nature business, right?
correct. Yeah, yeah, you got it.
So what are some
Yeah,
of
and
the strategies? Sorry, go ahead.
I was
I
just
was
going to say, thankfully, so given that's my career, right?
mm-hmm.
How effective are you going to be as a counselor if you can't make people feel comfortable and
Yeah.
develop rapport?
Well, I think it was in Think and Grow Rich. There's a story of a guy who is a high level executive in some like I'm probably gonna butcher the story, but he's in this industry that's like meat packing or moving meat. And he's like, I'm gonna go work at this steel company and I'm gonna manage over there. And people say, well, you don't know anything about that industry. And the guy says, I don't need to know anything about that industry. I need to know people. And people is the industry I'm in. And so, I always try to remind people that real estate, it's all about people. We're housing people, we're dealing with people, we're networking, we're raising capital. It's the people business. So if you don't know people, the properties won't do you any good. Now, on that note, what's one of the strategies you're using right now to expand your network of prospective investors?
Well, like I said, I've recently, well, 3 years ago, hooked up with a killer coach, and he's encouraging me to do volunteer work. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a great place to meet potential JV partners. I'm currently volunteering at two different places in downtown Kelowna there,
Mm-hmm.
and working events, man, networking events, and not real estate investment group networking events. I
I
mean,
had a
you don't
soundboard,
go
it'd
there.
be like, this guy, like so many people. I'm glad you brought that up. Is that at that networking event with real estate agents or real estate investors, it's all just those people. Like if you want to go to an entrepreneur event, you want to go to like a
Yeah.
business development event, you want to go to a tech conference, like these are the auxiliary industries. So go ahead. I'll let you finish the thought.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Most aspiring real estate investors think to go to real estate investment groups to meet potential investors, but that's the absolute worst place to go. I mean, you just got a bunch of people running around humping each other's legs. They're all looking for the same thing.
Yeah, really, right? It's like a room full of male dogs. Like, what are you gonna do? There's nothing to do here. So, expand, go to a tech conference, go to
Yeah,
a restaurant owners association, go hang out in there, there's business in any other room probably. I would always say go to the networking real estate events to connect with the people to learn how to do the business. But you're rarely going to find investors and investments. You might find properties to invest, but investors are typically found outside of those rooms. So now that you're networking and you're out there, building a list, what have you found most effective to keep in touch with these people before or after these events?
well, at those networking events, I strive to connect with just three people and spend 20 minutes with each one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not one of those guys who goes and tries to talk to 100 different people and give out 100 different cards. I'll
Mm-hmm.
narrow it down to three people who I think would be really good candidates and really good partners, and somebody who I get along with, who we have
Mm-hmm.
fun with. That's most important for me.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who I can see myself hanging out with, on a personal level. I do not want to jump into a marriage with anyone you know, who's going to be difficult to work with, or who we don't get along, or we got to be really similar on a lot of personal levels as well as the investment level.
Yeah, I
So
like that
we
you
would,
made the association. It's kind of like a marriage because especially with
yeah,
what you're looking to do, this isn't flipping. This isn't in and out money. This is in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, maybe the whole term of the project to the end of days. You could be in a partnership with these people. And if you don't get along and it's always contentious, you're going to be trying to replace that capital as soon as the first sign. Like,
yeah,
yeah, you get the deal done, you get the people in, and then something goes sideways or whatever. You guys get to at odds with each other. Now, more difficult that I've found, and maybe you could speak to this if you've had any experience with it, but replacing money with new money is more difficult than bringing the right money in the first place.
replacing money with new money
Like you have a bad
is more
partnership
difficult.
and you have to
Yeah,
buy them out. And so now you've got this
yeah,
property and to cycle them out, you might have to break a mortgage if they're the mortgage partner. You might have to do all sorts of weird things. And it would
yeah.
have just been better to have done more research and due diligence, brought the right partner in at the beginning.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, thankfully I've never had to deal with that, Bryce. So far so good. I think it's all about asking a million questions up front, and really, really, really being sure who you're jumping into bed with,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. My contract with JVs is minimum 5 years. And then at year 5, we can decide, that's when somebody could call for a sale, or we just refinance and buy another one, or
Mm-hmm.
refinance and the partner buys you know, a nice car or a boat, whatever he wants to do with the cash is his deal. But I haven't sold anything, since I bought that first property 13 years ago. I'm a long-term buy and hold guy through and through.
Mm-hmm.
I hope to never sell anything, Bryce, and I also hope to never pay off a friggin' mortgage. That's
You just
really
keep
bad math.
stacking it up.
Keep refinancing every 5, 7 years, whatever makes sense, and extend the AM. Get that
Mm-hmm.
money out of there and keep investing it.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
mean, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for people to invest significant amounts of capital for longer and longer terms to keep them around, um, it's important that they know you and that they like you and ultimately that they trust you enough to stick around in these deals. What do you do to kind of build that relationship as far as the like no trust relationship?
Yeah, good question. Well, I think like just really taking a solid and sincere and authentic interest in who they are as a person
Mm-hmm.
would be number one. Same exact skills that I use, when I'm counseling. And I keep calling them skills. Like, I don't mean to come across like I'm, trying to play somebody or create this fake relationship. That's not what I mean at all, Bryce. I don't build a relationship or strengthen a relationship for any other reason than I feel like it could be advantageous to both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's no there's never any yeah, let's build this relationship and see how much money I can get out of him. And if he doesn't give me enough, then I'll end the relationship. I mean, I've met people like that, and my bullshit meter goes off in about 2 seconds. And I'd
Mm-hmm.
expect it would go off for other people if I came across that way. It's got to
Mm-hmm.
be authentic, real, and genuine. Um, there's no other way around it. People's
Yeah.
bullshit meters are so finely tuned these days. I mean,
Yep.
with all the scams and the calls and the emails and the bullshit that you get bombarded with almost every single day, people can smell it 10 miles away. So
Yeah.
it's
You
got
want
to
to
be
make
real.
sure because it's not so much skills as I would call it training because some people were raised a particular way that they innately have some of those traits and skills already because their parents taught them and something like that where they're naturally like that. I wouldn't say I'm a natural when it comes to um necessarily understanding people's emotions. That's the one thing I have a challenge with. So I can understand people's motivations and things like that. And I have had
Mhm.
to become less terse is the word that people used to use with me back in the day is like you got to be a little bit more tactful in the communication that you use because not everyone wants to be talked to that way. So I'm like, yeah, I get that. And so I developed that skill so that I can better convey what I'm trying to say as opposed to trying to manipulate a situation. No, it's that I'm trying to convey what it is the situation is. And sometimes you can just be using the wrong words, rub someone the wrong way, and you might not have actually been trying to do that in the first place. So it is important that, and I always say this to real estate investors, it's a human nature business. Read How to Win Friends and Influence
Yeah.
People. And when you've done reading that book, then you'll understand real estate just a little bit better.
Yeah.
So um, interesting,
On
interesting.
that note,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say on that note, Bryce, my coach always tells me, don't be transactional. Like there's so many people out there that you know they have an agenda, and then
Mm-hmm.
once they realize the agenda is not reached, or they can't reach it with you or whatever, then the relationship ends. That's
Mm-hmm.
transactional. The key, like I mentioned, is authenticity and being genuine
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
really giving a shit, man. Like really, really caring.
Yeah, the transactional relationships. There's
Yeah.
a lot of that sort of um a lot of that going on, especially in the capital raising situations. Like you're really only going to get good deals with real estate agents, good deals from wholesalers, good money from people if you've nurtured and fostered a relationship that is not transactional. Don't always call your
Correct.
realtor when it's time for another deal. Call your realtor
No,
when you have an extra ticket to the baseball game.
you got it, man. Bring value, value,
Mm-hmm.
value, value, right? Like I have a killer power team in Edmonton where we do our investing,
Mm-hmm.
like 5 or 6 people that help me run this business. And you know, I know their kids' names, I know their dog's name, I know what's important to them. I know we stay in contact outside of the real estate investments altogether.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just calling to say hi.
Yeah.
Um, and bringing value. You know, that's number one thing for strengthening these relationships, for sure, above anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, speaking of building relationships, if people want to connect with you, they want to find out more and ultimately have a conversation about possibly investing with you, what should they do? How do they find you?
Well, easiest way is my phone number.
Mm-hmm.
Call or text anytime. That's no problem at all. I can provide that now, or you can provide it
Yeah, go
later on
ahead.
the,
You know, it's for the people listening along. Feel free
Yep,
to
sure.
give the number. Yeah.
I live in Kelowna, BC, so even better if somebody's located in Kelowna, screw the call. Let's go grab a beer, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, the number is 250-470-1354. Feel free, call or text, and if you got any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them for you. The other way I'm easily reached is through Facebook. I actually have a personal professional page where I put out value add posts a couple times a week or once a week. Like I said, the last one was 7 tips on how to get your mortgage application approved. But yeah, you can reach me there, Ian Webb, WEBB. That'd be great. Messenger works just fine. Those 2 ways are probably the easiest, Bryce, I'd say. Easiest and quickest.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time, and you got to get back to work up there, and yeah, I really appreciate your time and the insight into the relationship factor and the importance of relationships in real estate. Thanks for your time, Ian.
My pleasure. Thanks, Bryce.
No problem.
Bye-bye.
And until next time, guys, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.